Your Steve Jones Show podcast is loading now. The Steve Jones Show podcast is sponsored by Sunbury Motors, North 4th Street in Sunbury, and Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf.
Bring in, just getting back from Rec Hall, where he's been there for 2 days.
That's right.
Soaking in all the atmosphere. The outstanding Nate Bauer, sir. Welcome.
Just single tears streaming down my cheeks of what it means to watch basketball in a basketball venue.
Well, look, I've talked about this many times, but like, for example, the Palestra, that's an old-fashioned gym. I will give Mackey Arena credit, maybe 14,000 seats, but that's a basketball arena / gym. Yep. There are a couple places that are like that. So what did you expect when you went in, and then what was the reality of what you saw?
Yeah, I mean, I've been to a couple of the return to rec games, right? I mean, I certainly had not attended before Pat Chambers, right? When Chambers was Penn State's head coach, he had a few games over there. I think 2015, I want to say, maybe 2016. They followed up, and it was just as good, right? It is a condensed atmosphere. There really is not a bad seat in the house because you're on top of the floor. And so the combination of, and I think that this is important, the combination of high-level basketball, right? You got a Big Ten game in there with the nation's number 12 ranked team, and a crowd that is into it because the building allows for you to be into it. It gave it a buzz. It gave it a buzz, and certainly an atmosphere that, with or without the result, existed. Right? Like it was. Right. It wasn't. It's such an interesting. It's such an interesting evolution of the conversation in the aftermath. You hear some of the back and forth. Would people be talking about it with the same enthusiasm if Penn State had lost that game? And my perspective is absolutely, because if you were in that gym on Wednesday night, of which there were 6,000 plus people, right? Nobody at the beginning of that game felt anything other than, hey, this is awesome. This is so cool that they're playing basketball in here.
Yeah, Joe Crispin asked me yesterday at practice where I would rank it, because I guess the word's out. I've broadcast a couple games in there. And I said probably second. I'd probably put the game with Purdue when Glenn Robinson was there, the National Player of the Year, and Penn State won. And right behind it would be the Atlantic 10 Tournament Championship game when they beat George Washington. It wasn't quite filled that night, but it was a great crowd, great atmosphere. I said I've got number 2 just because of how it played out, the emotion of it, people storming the floor trying obviously to get your autograph, which I thought was really a cool thing to see.
Of course, naturally.
Right.
No, it was a college basketball moment, right? Like, I mean, there is such a hard time, and I think that, obviously both of us have been around this for long enough to acknowledge that there's something different about viewing college basketball. Like, the venue matters. The venue,
sure.
Like, forget it. Right?
It doesn't guarantee wins. Okay, it doesn't guarantee wins, but it guarantees something where you walk out and go, "Ooh, that was something else."
That was something else. I just saw high-level skill, athleticism, basketball. Like, basketball is a great sport, and my sense of, from a broader perspective, is that the Penn State community, in a lot of ways, can't appreciate the sport of basketball very much is influenced by the Bryce Jordan Center.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you don't have a plumb viewing position, right? So either of the sidelines, If you're on the baseline on the floor, I guess we can include that. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, the only good seats in that building are on the sidelines within 30 rows, right? I mean, even from where I sit on press row, I feel so disconnected, right? And you're behind me. I feel so disconnected from the action, from the sights, the sounds, you name it. All of that is, you're just removed. And so it is a pleasant experience to sit there, and it's fine. I can have a conversation with the guy next to me. I'm comfortable. If I need to go to the bathroom, it's there. There's concessions. It's there, right. It's very, very comfortable. Rec Hall is the opposite of that. It is a pain to park. There are no concessions. You are crammed in next to each other, but it's 10 times, a million times better. Right? It's so much better to watch a basketball, like the actual act of what you're there for. To watch college basketball is light years superior to anything that you can see at the Bryce Jordan Center.
Yeah. Okay. Now, obviously, the wrestling program is the single best program of any kind in collegiate sports. I mean, they're the best. I mean, doesn't matter the sport, they're the best. They've earned it. Kale's staff, he and his staff, along with they've earned it.
Yeah.
Okay. But there's always these little realities that creep up when people say, oh, basketball's nothing. And one of them was last March. And again, this hasn't been talked about that much. I've talked about it a lot. But there's a reality here, because this is a gigantic wrestling area. But last year, the NCAA Wrestling Championships were on ESPN, the finals, opposite Penn State, Texas, in the NCAA tournament. And the Wrestling Championship had total viewership of 452,000, which is good. That's good. The basketball game with Penn State and Texas had 6.6 million.
Correct.
Okay, so it's not like there's not interest out there, but the arena and the experience of the arena does figure in as to how people perceive the program. I mean, Brad Underwood was mad. Brad Underwood was mad they didn't play in the BJC.
Yep, correct. Do you know what what was on at Champs downtown in State College that night? It was basketball. Okay.
Right.
And here's the thing. I feel like it is an unwinnable and unworthy fight for basketball to have to try to present it as though it's a basketball versus wrestling thing in terms of ownership or having a home at Rec Hall, right? It's a losing battle, right? It shouldn't be, right? It should not be something where it's as though basketball proponents are saying, well, wrestling doesn't turn a profit, and so because of that, or basketball is a much more popular sport, that basketball should take precedence. It's not.
They've earned whatever, every great thing they've earned. Okay?
They can do whatever they want.
Right.
In perpetuity.
Because they have earned it and continue to work hard to earn it. That should never, right? It's just a question of moving forward. What do you do? Do you build a wrestling-only arena and let basketball go in there, or do you do something with basketball?
Yep. So here's the plan, Steve. I've figured it out. This is
what I was hoping for.
Credit elsewhere, because this is not an original. But the more I looked into it, the more reasonable and literally viable it is, which is midweek Big Ten games in January, February, and March, okay? You can play those at the Bryce Jordan Center. There is no conflict. There is nobody's being displaced. Maybe men's volleyball. Wrestling is not displaced. Certainly women's volleyball is not displaced. Right. You cannot do it logistically in November and December. It just doesn't work. Right? Maybe you can squeeze one in, but you have this middle ground right now that I think personally Penn State's administration and basketball need to work toward to figure it out of, okay, this was a great experience for Penn State basketball on Wednesday night. You can't do that all the time. You can't live there, right? It's just not possible.
Right.
It's not functional. You can't move your offices in there. It's a non-starter to even really explore that. What you can do, however, is you have an opportunity where this was an event that sparked something. There was a buzz. It gave you something. You're not seeing a dramatic loss in terms of gate, right? Your tickets sold from a weeknight Big Ten game at the Bryce Jordan Center versus what you would right? I mean, you're talking about 1,000 tickets basically, and you have an opportunity to kind of replicate things where logistically there would be things to figure out. There's an expense to this, right? It is not free to put a court in, and that's, for every listener, you have to put a court in. So,
you have to rent it, okay?
You have to So there's a cost to that. There's a cost in man hours. There's a reason that Mike Rhodes opened his post-game press conference talking about how appreciative he was. Like, it is an undertaking to put a game in there.
Yep.
It's just a matter of finding that balance of there are 20 Big Ten games, right, on your schedule. You have 10 at home. 5 are going to be on the weekends, right? 5 are going to be weekdays. And so if you can find a way to put those 5 games the way that Villanova splits arenas, the way that St. John's splits arenas, if you can figure out a way to harness that and give your team an advantage that currently blatantly does not exist for home Bryce Jordan Center games in the Big Ten schedule in January and February, you do that. You got to figure it out. You got to find a way to make it work financially, because it is so obvious that anybody that was in that building can recognize that it was an advantage for Penn State basketball on Wednesday night.
Yeah, it was. And look, they backed it up and played well enough. I mean, there's no getting around it. I don't think it's any coincidence that, I don't know, is it now 3 times in the last couple of weeks that Ace has had 10 assists or more? I mean, not bad. But in terms of the quality of the game, you just felt like the entire night, even when Penn State was down 14, down 12, down 10, the crowd was still into it because the building keeps the noise in.
Yep. And look, there's another reality here that they could even be better. the crowd can even be, and you heard that at the end of the game. You heard that in how they responded. I mean, look, people have conversations about venues not mattering from an analytical standpoint, right? That there are not differences in huge results, right? The big numbers that you can look at, which is Penn State has played very well at the Bryce Jordan Center this year. They've shot better at home. They shoot terribly on the road. Mm-hmm. But here's my argument. That it is blatant to me. Penn State got away with at least one call at the end of that game, and the officiating, we can go back and forth. There were some very, inconsistent officiating in the first 38 minutes of that game. But in the last 2 minutes of that game, Penn State, there was a bunch there. There was a bunch there that I would think a whistle would have been called that wasn't called, or a whistle was called that would not have been called at the Bryce Jordan Center. I firmly believe that. And if that is a demonstrable thing that you could say, okay, it helps you win. It helps you. It's an actual thing that is different. And in that venue, Penn State got a couple of those calls, and it ended up being a big difference maker down the stretch. Yeah,
but Coleman Hawkins walked twice. Okay,
that's true. That is a good offsetting counterpoint to what I just said. But
he walked twice. But that's
Puff might have caught an arm on that inbounds pass.
Right. No, exactly.
No,
and that's a traffic play. That stuff happens because of the trap on it all the time, and they didn't see it. Just like they didn't see the ball go off a foot out of bounds, and they all looked at each other. Dick and I are like, what are you looking at? What are you looking at each other for? What do you need, a fourth guy? What the heck?
Yep.
I get a little concerned about some of that stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, look, there are things that would have to be improved there too. The concessions. The parking, as you mentioned, the parking. It's not like there aren't some advantages of the Jordan Center. It's just when you sit in the end zones of the corners, you're removed from the game. Now, from a broadcasting point of view, yes, I do sit behind you, but because I do football, right, that viewpoint for me is as a viewpoint of calling plays. I'm not getting screened up there.
Sure.
I mean, you're next to the bench. Watch a game when I'm next to the bench someplace. I'm doing the bob and weave. I'm going around Mike. What do you, Mike?
Yeah. But even if they moved you up to press row, which is right, was on the track.
Yeah,
it's still a considerably better experience. And listen, I'm happy to acknowledge that this is self-serving, right? I as my workplace environment, the place that I have gone for 20 years to watch basketball games as a part of my job, is just not enticing. It's not, right? And so I would love, personally, selfishly, to have that opportunity. But I'm also spelling out, look, this is something that's clear to the spectators. I likened it yesterday. I wrote a story about it yesterday. It's almost like the idea of, and this is half-baked, Steve, so just rip into it if you want. It's this notion of like suburban sprawl, right? So people shopped in towns, even in downtown State College. People went shopping, and parking was a pain. It was more expensive, right? You have to walk farther between stores. That is, and so people gravitated toward going, right? You drive your car, you park at Target, you go inside, you get everything you want, and then you come out. But it's soulless. It has no mystique. There's no community to it. There's no, right? Like that experience is just lacking in, right? And maybe that's what you want. Maybe that's what people ultimately prefer. But I can point to the attendance numbers and the general vibe regarding Penn State basketball over the last 20 years and say, listen, you have something on campus, right? You don't have to build something. You have something that already exists that you, again, logistically, you can't do it all the time, but you can find a middle ground where it makes sense, right? It makes sense to find a middle ground here where you can move some games over there, provide your team with an advantage, and the weekend games at the Bryce Jordan Center, they make a ton of sense. Yeah. If your program develops, maybe eventually you need the Bryce Jordan Center and its capacity. Right. But I'm totally mystified by the notion that everybody's cool at Penn State, right, in terms of fan experience. Everybody's cool with hockey being an incredibly difficult ticket. Football is a tough ticket. Yep. Wrestling is an extremely tough ticket. But for whatever reason, the expectation is you should be able to walk up to the ticket counter at the Bryce Jordan Center 5 minutes before a game starts and just get exactly the seat that you want. Right.
I mean,
it should be a tough ticket.
Right. And the bottom line is the single, in terms of tickets sold, the biggest number in the Jordan Center this season is Penn State basketball, wrestling second, circumstances, whatever. But you know what that means? That means there were tickets available for both. Okay. It was, neither one ended up being a tough ticket this particular year. Now, those will both be surpassed by the Olympic trials. Okay.
Sure.
I mean, that's a tough ticket. But it is, I look at this, and I think from a fan point of view, right, It may be a dump, but it's our dump. You know what I mean? There is more of a feeling of Penn State fans, even though Penn State has not played in Rec Hall in men's basketball a little bit more than 8 years. It was 2015 to February 2024. That fans are more connected to Rec Hall than they ever have been being connected to the Jordan Center, even though that's been the home for 26 years.
Yeah.
Or 28 years. It's been the home for 28 years, and they're exponentially more emotionally connected to Rec Hall than they are to the Jordan Center.
I think that is one of many. Right, it's complicated. For the people that were at that game, even the ones who had a great time can acknowledge the limitations of the building in terms of comfort.
Right.
In terms of amenities. You can acknowledge that. I just think that if you truly are a supporter of Penn State basketball, if you want to see the Penn State basketball team win, and look, apathy is a huge part of the story of this program for decades. But if that's something that matters to you, you can recognize and see that this is it's worth it. It is.
Right.
It might be a less comfortable experience in the arena, but for 2 hours, you're going to have a great time.
Right.
You're going to have so much fun. You're going to be so tight and packed next to people. It's almost, to be honest with you, Steve, it's super interesting to me when I reflect on it. It's like, what is Penn State going to lose with football at Beaver Stadium when the West Side isn't like that anymore? Right? And I don't want to divert the conversation, but there is something to that. There is something to being crammed in next to a bunch of other people of whom you may know and may not know, but you're all there rooting for the same thing. You're all invested in the outcome of this same thing. It's something. There's something there that matters.
But, I mean, it's also one thing for any of us who have, I've probably at least done 250, 275 men's games in my career, whatever. It's one thing for me to tell Pat Kraft what it's like. It's another thing for him to sit there and experience it like he did the other night. And let's give him credit. He said, hey, let's do it. And I think he got a lot of answers in watching it.
Yep. For all of that. I mean, that's the reality of Penn State's situation right now. Is for all of those guys, Mike Rhodes, yes, but also Pat Kraft, Adam Miller, you name it. There were a lot of people in that arena on Wednesday night who saw a basketball game for the first time, right? Who had that experience. It's hard to duplicate. It is hard to duplicate. It is hard to understand until you're in it. But there's something there. There is a sense of community that you just don't get. You just don't have watching basketball at the Bryce Jordan Center.
With that, I'll see you at the BJC tomorrow.
Yep. We'll be back. We'll see how many people are there. It's a weekend crowd. It might be decent.
It's Coaches versus Cancer Day, which usually draws a bigger crowd, plus a Saturday, so we'll see.
Yep.
Nate, thanks so much. You jumped in the last second and basically carried the half hour.
Stop. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it always.
See you. Thanks.
Yep.
Nate Bauer on 3.com, Blue White Illustrated, on the show today. It is a very interesting debate. And again, for Pat Kraft, it's one thing for all of us to tell him, oh, you ought to see this place, when they put a basketball game in there. It's another thing for now firsthand to sit there and experience and go, okay, because with Pat, that means the wheels start turning because he wants to win. And that building gives maybe even a better shot at doing it. It doesn't guarantee it, but it gives you a better shot. A basketball gym